Hey there, you beautiful badass. Welcome to the Keri Croft Show. I'm your host, Keri Croft, delivering you stories that get you pumped up and feeling like the unstoppable savage that you are. So grab your coffee, put on your game face, and let's do this thing, baby. So how many people ask you if it's really worth it to get a haircut by Mia Santiago?
Honestly, a lot. And honestly, it is.
I mean, she is a celebrity hairstylist in Columbus, Ohio. That's all you really need to know.
She doesn't miss, and now she has her own salon, Headspace. It is truly something this city has never seen.
Girl, I did one scalp treatment, and I would let Jake put his hands on my head anytime he wanted.
No, same. It's right in Upper Arlington where Mia cuts and styles, and Jake manages a full scalp spa, which is like a facial for your scalp and a massage for all of the stress and tension we hold in our head and neck.
I legit felt like I was on something after I got my first treatment, and my hair looks so much healthier now that all the buildup and dead skin are gone. I mean, I do love massages, but honestly, this might be even better. Plus, it has so many proven benefits for my hair health.
Truly believe you get what you pay for, and Mia and Jake are the dream team.
Use code Keri for 20% off your first visit with Miss Mia Santiago. Carla Morrow, welcome to the Keri Croft Show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I feel like I'm big time now.
No, listen, I told you I just got up from a nap.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be like we're going off a runway. We're gonna low key this thing, and then we're gonna kind of ratchet it up.
No,
I know what that's like, man. When you wake up from a nap and you're like groggy.
Yeah, I was like, is today the day?
Are we really doing this? Are we really doing a Shania Twain reel today?
Let's go.
See, now I knew I could get you excited. You got to shimmy and shake and make the earthquake. That is
Kick,
so turn, stomp.
Yeah.
And then we have to do like moves to that, right?
Yeah.
So that's like one of your songs.
That's it.
You love that shit.
So there's a story behind it, right?
Okay.
So I play volleyball, and I was a sophomore. I didn't have a car at this point. So, like, before the games, like, I had to ride with other people. And some of the people that I rode with, which are good friends, like, at that time, they played that song. And so it became my song. I made a dance to it. And it became a song that was on the warm-up tape.
So you are is it correct to say the associate head coach for the Ohio State women's basketball team?
I am.
That's a big job.
It is.
A cool job. Like, I'm fascinated by your job. But you're kind of low key, like you do a lot behind the scenes, right? I mean, you're doing all kinds of stuff. Like, what's your everyday? I know every day changes, but give me some of the bigger kind of pillars of your role.
So I would say, as an assistant coach, period, like if you're associate or an assistant, you do a lot of things behind the scenes. You do a lot of things that people will probably never see, right? So my role, like I'm the defensive coordinator, so I do a lot of our preparation for how we're going to guard the other team. I do a lot of film, which is part of the reason why I just woke up from a nap.
Yeah.
But it's fun. Like, it's entertaining. Like, you're in young people's lives at a time that, they're learning, they're growing. For me, having played, I know a lot of what they're going through, just from a developmental standpoint, but like the times in their life is totally different from the times in my life, right?
Yeah,
There's no social media, which is a huge factor in a lot of things. But I love my job. I love basketball. The players really get on me, but I could really play when I play.
I would not mess with you. So your dad was a coach?
Yes.
And I thought it was interesting what you said when I was doing a little research. You said that he wouldn't even like play with, like, he was like, you need to like figure this out and get your fundamentals down. And I need to see if you're really into this before I'm even going to mess with you.
Yeah. He coached girls basketball. Like, backstory, like, I used to sit on the bench with him in the front seat. Like, so he would stand up and coach and I would sit at the very front, which is ironic because now this is where I'm sitting, right? But he was very like hands off with me at first. And it was just like, if this is what you're going to do, show me this is what you want to do. And he wasn't like a very emotional or passive person, but he was just like, you have to take ownership of you and what you're going to do, right? So that's how he was with me. That's how he was with my younger brother. And I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
Like, I learned work ethic. I learned how to, if this is what you want to do, this is how you present it. He did coach me in AAU, and it was funny. He coached. So my AAU team was composed of like my friends in the community, and he was the assistant coach for us. And we had this van that we went from a van to a Suburban. Hey, we moved up, right?
Oh yeah.
But he would take us around, and we would show up. All of us would pile out of the van, and my dad was the assistant coach. Like, we actually made it to nationals, which was in Spokane, Washington. And the night before, like, the whole team, well, not the whole team, but the people that were on the team that lived in my community, they slept at our house. And then we went to AAU nationals.
So part of you as a little girl, were you like, I bet that was motivating because you're like, no, I really want him to pay. I want him to see me. Like, I want him to like know that I'm into this, right? So that probably drove you and really put a fire under your ass to be like, I can't wait until he's like, yeah, she's got it.
No, it was, there was probably some of that, as you look at it, but it also just taught me how to be like depend on myself. Right. And it also taught me, like, you can't just show up and this is how it's going to be. Right. Like, you have to work, you have to earn it. I don't know if we'll get into this later, but like during my college career, like, I was so mad at my dad one time because I wasn't like, I had started to play, then I wasn't playing. I called him. It was like Thanksgiving. And of course, everything was the coach's fault. I was like, she's ruining my career. I had these goals. And like, I just wasn't producing. Like, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And for my dad to tell me that, like, he was like, Carla, like, coaches want to win, right? So they're going to play the players that are doing what they're supposed to do to help win games. Like, what are you not doing? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean, what am I not doing? I got so mad at him, like, I hung up the phone, and I never, like, do that. And I had to have, like, a come to me moment.
How long did that take you before you were like, hold on a minute, I got to
own it?
Yeah. Because how many people do you know that just can't own their shit? A lot.
Yeah.
So you hang up the phone and you're having this internal, dialogue, and then what?
Well, it was hard, but like, if you really want to go back, like, my freshman year this was like the base of it. So I wasn't playing. I thought I knew everything. I thought I was the best player. Like, why am I here if I'm not good, right? And so I wasn't playing. I was like, when I look back on it, like, can I curse?
Oh, please.
So basically, I was just being an asshole that thought I knew everything. And I finally had this moment, like, it was right before Christmas break. And like I played at Tulsa, right? So our colors were blue, white, and like gold. So the blue team was the starters, white team, not the starters. So because I was such an ass, like I would show up and just put on white because I knew I wasn't on the blue team, right? And so my teammates were like, "Oh my gosh, like you're being an ass." I'm like, "Yeah," because I was a young kid, like that's what I was, right? So one day, like between finals and Christmas break, something like happened in my mind, and I was like, you know what? Like, it's like 2:00 in the morning, and I never stay up that late, but I just couldn't sleep. I was just like going back and forth, and I was like, I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna be coachable. I'm gonna work like outside of practice. Like, I'm gonna be a better teammate. I'm gonna be a better person. And it may not happen right away, but when it does happen, I'm gonna be ready. And so I was kind of like resigned to, I'm on the white team, right? So and it was just like a weight like lifted off of me, right? So I practiced for 4 or 5 days, and I'm actually having really good practices. Like anything that the coach is saying to me, I'm like, okay, got it. Like I always thought it was her fault, but I'm like, I'm good. Like I'm gonna work on this. And one day, like before we went home for Christmas break, she just like lost her mind, and she was like, "That's it. Like I've had it. From now on, like if you're on the blue team, you're on the blue team. If you're on the white team, you're staying on the white team." And in my mind, I was like, it doesn't matter because I already told myself I'm on the white team. So she goes, position 1, like, or the 1, name someone. The 2, name someone. 3, she's like, Carla. And I was like, what? And she names like 4 and 5, and they're like, change your jersey. And I was like, oh, this shit is on now. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm on the blue team. It's popping.
And it just kept popping.
It kept popping until it burst. So then I had to have another like come to like fruition moment. Like, is now what are you not doing that you should be doing? And so with that moment, like with that being my dad telling me like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, I had to reel it in.
When did you realize you're like, okay, I am like so much taller? Were you always like, was there a time like 8th grade you just sprouted up?
No. So I was tall when it wasn't cool to be tall.
How tall are you?
I would say 5'11". But like I was tall when it wasn't like the big feet more than, like the school picture.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Only girl in the back. Probably in the middle. Yeah.
So when I asked you how would people describe you, and you said, you're very guarded, resting bitch face, all these things, and you kind of have this hard persona. But there's for me, meeting you, because I met you, I had the pleasure of meeting you one other time, and you are guarded, which I get. Fair. I have the same thing, but I also saw a softness that doesn't really. You're like, it's there.
What's the softness? And there's nothing wrong with it. I
feel like you're quiet and you're strong, but I felt a kind energy. I felt like a very warm energy underneath it. But see, I'm a reader of that stuff. I pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
So what made you that? Are you just built that way? Or was it a combination of like, I'm tall when I'm younger, I was made fun of, I didn't feel understood? Where does that wall come from?
That's a great question. Like, I would say that I am guarded. I like who I like. I interact with who I interact with. I do think that probably some of like the awkwardness as a young kid probably has shaped my personality.
Yeah.
I do like care about people, like the
yeah.
people that I'm friends with and that I care about, like they know that. But I do think that probably, some of being awkward, and I wouldn't say necessarily being made fun of, but just being different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because everybody else is 5'2", right? Or 5'3" at that time as we're growing. And, I'm so much taller than everybody.
Yeah. It's being an outlier, basically. You're in the 1%. There's not a lot of tall girls hanging out. So your dad's a coach, you start playing, you're good, you've got an attitude, but you figure it out. Now you're at Tulsa and you're balling, right? When was, is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm balling.
You're balling. So when did the bug, like, I want to coach, like I want to give back and I want to propel this? Was it in college or was it after college?
I would say it started like in college. So I have a totally different perspective than I did then than I have now because I'm actually doing it. But my dad was somebody that was very important to me. Obviously, he's passed away, so that's why I'm using was, and I should probably use still is, right? But just the relationships that he had, like with his players. So he coached football, girls basketball, and baseball. So totally different.
He did all.
Yeah, and my teams, right? So just to see like the way that the players respected him, interacted with him, and to see at home like the time that he put into his different teams and his attention to detail, like that was something that always stood out to me. And so going into college, like I saw like my coaches, they had nice cars, they had nice clothes. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, I can be like my dad. I can do this. That's not what it is, right? It's so much more like behind the scenes things. And to see that like they worked for everything that they got. So I was always the player that was like, I want to do camps, right? So when we would have camp at Tulsa, I was organized, I was detailed, like my teams had plays. When the kids came to my session or like my station, I was like, this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it. I was the one coach at camp that was just like on the kids. And it was because I knew I wanted to coach. So this was my time to practice. Mm-hmm. And my teammates' approach to camp, they were just like, oh, we're just here like to get paid. And I was like, well, I'm not just here.
Right.
Like, I'm here because this is something that I'm going to do. So I had the privilege of 4 years to like practice. And I enjoyed it. Like, even now, like when we have camps at Ohio State, like I'm all over it. Especially the little kids.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. I bet you crushed that.
Oh, I put them through a practice. I'm like, you're at Ohio State camp? Let's go through a practice.
That's so cool. So was Xavier your first foray into coaching?
No, so I was at Southwest Missouri State, but now it's Missouri State. I was there for 2 years, and then I was at Colorado for 2 years.
And then Xavier.
Yeah.
And that's where you met McGuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think it says a lot. You guys are still full circle.
Yeah, we came back around.
So when you made your way into the WNBA, what was that experience like? That had to be a whole different culture shock.
No, it was... I love the WNBA, like, for sure. If it wasn't McGuff calling me, I wouldn't have came back to college. But I love college now. But the competitiveness, like it's such a small league, right? So right now there's 12 teams, they're expanding, but you're playing those teams at least 3 times, right? Some teams, or I think maybe at that time you're playing one team 4 times. So it was so competitive. But for me coming in, I was just like, so you live in the city that you coach for 6 months, right? And then you move back to wherever you're living and the players go overseas. So I'm getting ready to move there. And I'm like, the night before, like I'm all packed up. I have a car packed. My fiance has a car packed. We're driving to Chicago from Oxford, Ohio, where we have a house. And I'm like, he's in the bedroom sleeping. I'm out in the living room and I'm like, what the fuck did I just sign up for? Who am I to coach pro players? Like, what am I doing? And I'm like freaking out. And I'm like, maybe I can just call my old boss and get my job back. Like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. So I go in and I'm like, I wake him up and I'm like, we can't do this. I can't. I'm scared. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm getting ready to do right now. And he's like, just go to sleep. Like, we'll talk about it in the morning. So I go and freak out by myself, right? I wake up the next morning and I'm just like, you know what? I got this. I got it. Like, I'm getting ready to drive like 6 hours to Chicago. Doesn't even matter. I got it. And I showed up and like, I was good. I was like, okay, like.
What did you draw from when you went from like imposter syndrome, the freak out moment, which I think is a rite of passage. I think every single person that has a heartbeat and a brain, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your status, I think everybody deep down, when they're getting ready to do something like that, they have this moment of like, I'm not enough.
Yeah.
Was it anything specific? Did you channel like your dad? Did you think back to something? Did something happen? Or you just were like, all right, I slept on it or didn't sleep on it. I'm ready.
I was just like, you know what? Like, you accepted this job. Like, and I'll be honest with you, part of it was like, I was at Xavier for 10 years and it was a safe place, right? And it was a comfort. And my thing was, at this point, like, I got to get out of my comfort zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because you can't be here forever. So basically it was like, you know what? Like, you have to grow up and challenge yourself.
Yeah.
So I did. And my first workout with some of the players, it went really well. And I went from accepting the job to you have to be there like within a week and a half. So doing all the moving to now I'm sitting in a room and we're drafting players. Right? And 2 weeks later, like, practices started. So my first year, like, my come to the WNBA moment, we're playing at Minnesota. They had just lost the shout out to Minnesota because they're in the finals now. So, and they won game 1. So good job, guys. But at this point, they had lost to LA. The next season, Chicago's playing them like first game of the year. The way that the WNBA like warm up is worked out, like you're there early, you work out. Fans aren't allowed in to a certain point of time. Then you do kind of like a team workout, right? then you go back to the locker room. As assistant coaches, like, you're working different players out, you're doing the team workout, so you're like in sweats, right? After you talk to the team, like, you have to get dressed. So you go from like this to like dressed up for the game. I learned how to take a shower in 10 minutes, right? So you do that. So I go from tennis shoes to heels. I'm walking out. The music was so loud. The energy was just like, and I'm like, as I'm walking out of the tunnel, I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. Once again, like, I want to quit. I'm like, this is crazy. I can't even like hear myself to think. So I would say, like, through like this, once the second quarter started was finally when I was like, okay, like, I'm good. And from then on, like, I was all right.
Yeah. So, you just got overwhelmed for a minute. Like, what is this?
No, it was crazy. Like, even though, like, people are like, well, a lot of people don't go to like WNBA games. The people that do, yeah, like, they're coming in hot.
Well, this is a great time to kind of transition into that, because the WNBA, I mean, it completely exploded. Women's basketball in general, and sports in general. I mean, what a great time! What a time, right?
Yeah.
What an amazing time.
I could have added on to that, but
to be alive.
yeah,
We talking teams?
yeah, I'm picking sides.
We'll be talking about hip hop and R&B in a minute. Don't worry, it's in my soul. So this is such fertile ground for you, because I look at you and I think, shit, she's got college experience, she's got professional experience, she's got like head coach written all over, if that would be something you wanted. I mean, this is like, what are your thoughts being someone who played college ball then and watching like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and just the shine and the money and all this opportunity, because having a foot in both worlds has to be interesting.
Well, I would say, like, it's about time, right? Like, women's basketball has always been competitive. Women's basketball has always been, like, if you pay attention, a great game to watch, right? We just can't, all 10 of us on the court at one time can't dunk, right? So we have to figure out other ways to play the game of basketball. And I think women's coaches have done a great job of skill development, player development, and using some things from the men's game to bring to the women's game. But from a physical standpoint, like, when people I like men's basketball because of this, like, as women, like, we're just not going to ever be able to do those things, and that's fine. But there's things that we can do a lot better, right? So I think this is a great time to be a female basketball player, right? Like, not only in the WNBA, but also in college and high school. And, when you bring, like, now, like, the NIL, name, image, and likeness, now you get to see who, like, women's players are as people, which is what you've always been able to see, in the NBA. So, like, this is fun for me. Like, I love seeing it. I love that women are being allowed to be themselves, show their personality, right? Like, when you say Angel Reese, like, she's probably somebody that's misunderstood, right? Like, you should get her on the podcast.
I would agree. Hey, listen, call me.
Right? Like, her and a lot of other people. Like, one of my favorite players growing up was Cheryl Swoops. Get her on the pod.
Okay.
She's probably misunderstood as well, but now that you're having this platform and this opportunity to be yourself, and then as women, like, we're encouraging women to be women, it's amazing. Like, it's only gonna go up.
Yeah.
Like,
I find that misunderstood people are my favorite. They're the ones you have to peel back and, like, you find each other.
no, I could see that.
Absolutely. Because you earn the right to get to know somebody. That's how I feel. That's
There
how
you
I felt with
go.
you. It's like, you know what? Like, I feel like I have to earn the right to be in your sphere. And that's a vibration I like. That's a vibration that I can get down with. And now here we are.
I feel the misunderstood.
Yeah.
I feel, I should say this, like, I'm totally with you. I would say, like, the women's game, basketball-wise, has been misunderstood. But now people are understanding it, and people are seeing, like it's a great game. And, like, coaching at the highest level, like, I didn't even think about this, but, like, there's 12 teams, right? If you're a head coach in the WNBA, you're one of 12. At the time, there was 2 assistants. So, like, you're one of 24.
It's elite.
I didn't realize that until I was like, wow. Like, I'm doing a job that only 23 other people are doing. Yeah. Just like as players, like, you're one of 144 in the world.
Is there any head female coach out there right now that you sort of connect with or aspire to more than others? Ready to elevate your self-care game? Boss Gal Beauty Bar is a modern med spa offering everything from cosmetic injectables, lasers and microneedling, to medical-grade facials and skincare. Conveniently located in Clintonville, Grandview, Powell, and Easton, making self-care a priority has never been easier. Use code CROFT for $25 off your first visit.
I would say, like, in college, like, Dawn Staley, because she's just her. Every time I see her, she always says hi. In this profession, sometimes it is what it is, but she's always been very cordial to me. When I was coaching at Xavier, she was coaching at Temple, and our teams would go back and forth. But just as an assistant and her being a head coach, like, she's always spoken. I respect the way that she coaches the game. She coaches it as who she is, right? Like, she's not trying to be somebody else. She's not trying to do anything else. She's just her, right? And I think her players respect that, and that's why they play the way that they do, right? Like, when she walks in the gym, like, she's not worried about Dawn Staley, like, the Olympian, like, champions, like, this is me, right? And I totally respect that. WNBA, I would say Becky Hammond, because she's the same way. People don't know this. Becky probably doesn't even remember this. I played against her in college. Like, I actually had to guard her. She's good.
She's a good player.
She was good. Like,
Yeah.
but she was one of the first people that wore, like, low tops.
Really?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I noticed it because, like,
Yeah. Well, because you kind of would, right?
well, it was like, it was kind of swaggy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would notice that too and be like,
But I was like, no disrespect. I was like, yo, this white girl, like, she got on these low tops.
I love how you're like low-key, like, no disrespect.
No, like, but I was like, yo, she can play and she's wearing low tops, like, mad respect.
Oh,
like,
yeah, for sure.
So where can I get my low tops? Like, she
Yeah.
was a good player, but she's an even better coach.
Back to the NIL for a second. Do you look at the college players today who can cash in from this? And you're like, man, what an opportunity.
No, I think, like, it is a great opportunity. And there's good and bad with NIL because you have young kids making a lot of money. what are you doing with that money?
It can definitely go, especially when you look at, I mean, let's call it what it is. Ohio State's a football school when it comes to all the shine and visibility that they get. And so these players, especially the top tier players who are getting the big checks, I mean, there's going to be, if you don't have somebody helping you level that shit out, it could be a problem. Yeah. Understood. But when you look on a smaller scale, someone who's able to maybe help if their family's struggling or whatever, and they can maybe help bring some coins through the door. I mean, I'm like, there's some good stories there too.
No, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it's a really good thing if you're doing it the right way and you have the right people helping you.
Yeah.
Right. But, for these athletes, like it can also be overwhelming because now that's another thing added to their schedule. Right. So you're going to school, you're going to practice, you have games, you have commercials. Like, isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. It's a lot. I couldn't even listen, I putzed around Ohio State's campus. I was like walking around the Oval confused. Yeah. I can't even imagine having like the schedule of a college athlete and then on top of that brand deals and everything else. I mean, in one way, you'll grow up quick. You're going to sink or swim. It's going to be a good thing. But the other way, it's like, damn, overstimulation, over access, So it's like anything else. You just got to have good people around you, have a good head on your shoulder. A lot of Carlas. You got to have a lot of Carlas kind of, swarming around.
No, you have to have the right people in your corner. Like, you have to make the right deals too, right? Like because people are just throwing deals out there. Like what's good for me? What's good for my brand? What's good for like, not just today, but 3 months from today, 4 months from today, 2 years from today, when now I'm going to be a professional. Right. So it's crazy, but like I tell my players, like when I worked at Missouri State, one of my head coach told me this. She was like, every check that I made, I saved $50. Even when I wasn't making like any money, she's like, I put $50 in savings. Right. And that's like back in the day when you're like, boom, boom, boom. So I was like, what if you didn't have $50 to save? And she was like, I did it. And so like for me, like every time I get paid since like 2007, I save.
Oh yeah. So smart.
And that's what I tell like the players now, that they're making money and they're doing like different things, like save and live.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And the fact that you walk the walk too is like, and I can imagine you're very maternal with these girls. And speaking of maternal, we have not touched on the light of your life yet, your daughter.
My dog.
And how do you balance all that?
You just do. I mean, I found out I was pregnant towards the end of my first year in the WNBA, and it was very like surprising, because we were at the point where it was like, if we have a kid, like, cool. If we don't, like, we're fine with each other. Well, little did we know, she was already on the way.
Yeah.
So I actually took 3 pregnancy tests, because I was like, this first one, like, this is old. Like, this one is old. This can't be right. So I go to Walgreens, take 2 more, and it's like, boom, boom. And I'm like, all right, it's happening.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what's happening. And her dad is amazing, very supportive, which allows me to do what I'm able to do. Having her at home and around, she doesn't care if I win or lose. Like, I'm her superstar. And you know what? You need that.
Yeah.
Right? And we have our moments. Mm-hmm. Like, we actually had a moment this morning. She was like, I want to wear these high heels. And I'm like, you're going to school. like she's all about her fashion and her accessories. And so, which is why I don't know if she'll ever play basketball.
You never know.
We'll
But that's
see.
okay.
But no, she can. I encourage her to be her. She doesn't have to be me and do what I do. I encourage her to have a voice. And a lot of the feedback that I get, like, from her friends and school is she's a leader. And I think sometimes as an only child, like, you kind of go into that role. So
That's got to make you feel good.
it does. It does. Like, she was probably like a little over a year when COVID hit. So she had a lot of time where it was just me, her, and her dad. And you're hearing a lot of grown-up conversations. You're hearing how grown-ups are dealing with certain things and going about certain things. So I think that's some of where she's gotten that from.
Yeah, because I would like that feedback. You just want to know that your kid's going to be okay out there when you can't, when they're old enough to like fly. Like that's what I always, I'm like always telling Dane, I'm like, Dane, you're a leader. You're a leader of your sister. You're a leader. Yeah. And I just know that has to like just make you feel really good because you want them to be. I mean, it's a tough ass world.
Yeah.
It's like be tough enough, but then a little, not too tough.
Yeah, like she's going like, so her hair is curly. Not everybody's hair in her school is curly. And she's like, well, the other kids' hair is curly. And I'm like, be you. Be great. You don't have to be like everybody. And she told me the other day, like, she was like, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be great. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about.
But remember when you were young and you were that tall girl in the back row and how you felt? It's like, God, if I could only go back and tell her that. Like that, it's wild. It's so great that she has a mom like you that can just let her harness that authenticity because not everybody gets that. It's special.
I told her, I was like, Eva, like, everybody wasn't like mommy. Everybody wasn't tall like mommy, right? So it's okay to be different. And I think that's like in the world, like people just think like you have to be the same. You have to be like this person. You have to be. Why? Who are they?
How homogenous and boring.
But like why do you have to be like them?
You know what? I love you say that because I have this internal dialogue that I always go back to because we all sort of, every once in a while somebody will get to you or somebody you get in a moment where you're feeling a little, you're like, they have all this power, this word they. Yeah, and you're like, first of all, who the fuck are they? But let's peel it back even further. Where's their resume? Like, what are they doing? How have they earned the right? And again, back to what I just said about, earning the right to be in your sphere. How have these strangers, these they people, how they earned the right? What are they doing? Yeah. And so then I have to then I'm like this. And by the time I'm done, I'm like, fuck they, who are they?
Yeah.
You know
like,
what I
really,
mean?
who are they though? Right?
But a lot of people, I think you really do have to analyze that. And then you go back and you go, okay, I'm really aware about how life goes real fast. And I want to have a highly concentrated life that's full of joy and authenticity and doing things that I feel are beneficial. I don't have time to spend on they.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's funny that you say that because like who can answer the question of who are they?
Well, for some people, it's like their parents. For some people, it's a toxic sibling. For some people, it's toxic friends, and you're so used to having them in your world. It's like, wait, and then sometimes it's this invisible they you're making up in your damn head. So you got to really take inventory and figure out like who they.
Yeah, go Bengals.
Okay, one more question before we get silly.
All right.
Do you aspire to be a head coach somewhere someday?
I would like to be a head coach, but the position has to be, or the opportunity has to be a good opportunity. Ohio State is a great place. There's not a lot of places that you just leave here to go to. And I understand where I am and the opportunity that I have, and I don't take it lightly. It's funny, just to kind of get off of topic a little bit. I was taking my daughter to her first day of school. She was probably 3 years old, and she was so happy to go. I was very nervous about sending her, and this was right after COVID, and she's walking up. She sees a little kid that she was friends with at the park, and she was like, yeah, this is my mom. She's the associate head coach at Ohio State, and she just kept walking. And I was like, don't tell people that. But to her, it was just boom, that's her, and she just kept it moving, right? And so that just really made me think about one, who are you really, right? Because she just clearly made it known. But it also made me think about well, hell, I work at Ohio State, right? Because this is a lot of people don't, and a lot of people want to. So just take advantage of the opportunity that you have. Be present in where you are, because that doesn't necessarily always happen in this profession. And, if I'm doing my job and I'm doing it the right way, and, I get a call and it's the right situation, the right scenario, then I'll consider it.
I really love that answer. And then something else I just hit me. I'm like, am I dumb? You have your daughter's name on your hat.
I do.
And I was like, so I looked at it a couple times. I'm like, E-V. I was like, nah, and then that's so cool.
Amazon.
Okay, your top 5 hip hop artists. Give them to me.
We're going to do
R&B and then hip hop separate.
So let's go R&B, and then, because this is my show now.
Okay. You know what? I love it. I love it.
So I'm going to go Mary J. Blige. That
I love me some Mary J. Blige. Man. She takes me back.
Yeah, all her albums.
No, so good.
Bangers. Mm-hmm. Mariah Keri.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them make me feel like I can sing.
And you think you can when you're in the car with them.
Yes.
I'm
that's it. In the car, you turn it up loud. Yeah. I kill it with both of them. I really do.
I can imagine. And have you ever tried turning it down and then listening to yourself? I'm like, damn, we can't be doing that. You're killing my vibe.
Yeah. Other people in the car is just a problem. Usher. People are not gonna know this one.
Who is it?
LSG.
How are you stumping me right now on that?
No, look it up. It's it's a group that's combined. Keith Sweat is in it.
Okay, I see. It was a collab.
Yeah.
I love Jodeci. I follow them.
Mm-hmm. I could throw in Drew Hill, Boyz II Men.
We used to say R. Kelly, but it's really not. He had some good ass songs, man. Okay, hip hop, rap.
Tupac, Too Short, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne.
Queen.
Oh, I didn't even throw Beyonce in there. Yeah. That's my number 5. So funny fact, Beyonce, my dad was a principal. She went to my dad's school for 1 year.
No shit.
She's from Houston.
She's something.
The 5th one, it's so tough. Because I know they're beefing right now.
Drake and Kendrick?
Yeah.
It is tough. But Kendrick, he has a whole nother level.
I know.
Now,
that's the hard part.
I think you
Humble?
have to go, but Humble, sit down. I was just listening to that yesterday. But I think him, They Not Like Us, him releasing that, you got to give it to Kendrick because he just basically went whack, 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 whack. I mean, it was something.
I know, but
And it's probably a minor. Like, come on.
You know who actually like has some good lyrics is Eminem. Yeah.
I love him. I do. I love him.
No, he's a very smart.
He
like,
is.
Him, Lil Wayne, like some of the things that they put together, like
Genius.
like the Silent G and Lasagna, like who would have ever known that?
Lyrically, Lil Wayne is up there because he's so damn clever. Eminem is a master.
That's why I really like Jay-Z, because like at times like he's rapping about like where he was and now where he is in the same song. Could you imagine like where he was and like now this guy is like producing people, like he can trip a referee.
Yeah. No, it's
You like how I did that?
yeah. No, you brought it back. You brought it back. I feel you. She's awake.
I could
She's
be courtside.
Carla's awake.
Actually, you know what? I could trip a referee.
Well, you actually could.
I could.
For sure. But
I should trip
You're
some
way
of
too
them.
polite. You're way too cool, classy, and polite for that.
Since this is my show,
Yes.
we didn't cover this.
Okay.
So, what's your go-to karaoke?
Feel like making love.
Who sings that?
Bad Company. I could do a Shania Twain though too. If you're drunk enough, I could almost get away with having a decent voice. I could kind of mimic certain artists, but my stage presence would put you'd be like, yeah, and then the next day you'd be like, shit,
That's it.
that was terrible.
It's the stage presence, right?
I pulled off a Sheryl Crow one time, strong enough to be my man. I made my best friend cry. She was deep into the Rumplemans. Yeah, we laughed. The next morning I was like, seriously?
Yeah, you know the big thing about karaoke, people don't realize this, and I don't like karaoke in the club anymore because I really don't go to the club anymore.
Yeah,
is like the stage presence.
no, it 100% is.
You got to get the crowd into it.
Wait, I know what I forgot to talk about. Now this would have haunted me tonight. You're a storm watcher.
I am.
Who'd have thunk?
Why?
It feels like a very like bird watching, like a grandma watches the birds.
Yeah.
You were totally into this hurricane.
Yeah,
Scary as shit.
Yes. So here's the crazy part of it. So I was born in Houston. Gulf of Mexico's right there, right? So, but I was enough, like, this is what storm watchers language, inland. So I was far enough inland that like another language, the surge, didn't always necessarily like hit us, but we got some of the action. So that's when I first started like really paying attention to the weather. I lived in Tulsa, which was Tornado Alley. I think we may be in Tornado Alley as well in Ohio. Yeah, like when I lived in Cincinnati, like the sirens were going off like constantly, so anyways.
And you get like, ooh, what's happening?
No, I'm like glued to the TV. But now, like, you don't even, like, you're on the app, you're on the, like, I wake up in the morning and, like, open the Weather Channel. Like, this right now is hurricane season, and it's been very active, probably more than it has been. So, like, I'm just, like, looking how the storms are formed, the directions that they're going. Unfortunately, like, you have some storms that are very, like, deadly. And then, you know, sometimes storms like kind of veer off and they lose like their intensity. But if you like Hurricane Helene, like in Ohio, we experience like some of that, which is crazy. Like I never realized like how big a hurricane could be.
The residual effects.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're kind of like the calm before the storm. That's kind of how
like
I would.
I'm not the eye of the storm.
No,
See,
you're the
that's
calm.
another.
You're the
that's
calm
another
before
one.
the
Like,
storm.
storm trackers, like we know these languages.
Yeah. Can you take me? Let's go. Here, this is what, next time there's a storm, I want to get in the car. I want to like chase it with you.
No, I'm not chasing.
You're not going to chase it? You're just going
No.
to just sit and watch it?
I'm going to look on the internet. Like, I'll tell you a funny story. Well, a quick story. Like, this was going into my sophomore year in high school. Or maybe it was middle school. I don't know. My mom had to do like a conference in Florida. It was in Tallahassee. And she wanted to bring me, my mom, my dad. And I was like, I don't want to go. She's like, why? I was like, it's Florida, it's hurricane season, school's getting ready to start. I don't want to go. There's going to be a hurricane. And she's like, no, it'll be fine. Like, it's fine. We're driving. You'll be fine. Everything's fine. Guess what? There was a hurricane. We were boarded up. Like, we had to put boards on the windows for the wind and mattresses on the other side. And the whole time I was like, I told you.
You knew it.
I don't know how I called it, but I called it. So we ended up having to leave early.
Man. Yeah, that whole, this Milton, man, I was glued to my TikTok.
Yeah. Milton.
That was scary.
It was scary. It was bad because it was an area that was already hit, or areas that have already been hit. Yeah, like, people they don't really realize, like water in a pool is cool, but, like, water in your house is a problem.
Not cool. It's a big ass problem. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Can you come back?
Yeah, I
sometime?
like the studio.
You'll come back? Okay, good. That means you had a good time.
Yeah.
You enjoyed yourself. All right. If you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, go to a Ohio State women's basketball game, will you? I'm going to go too.
OH.
All right. IO. And keep moving, baby. Oh, yeah.